depth, having a bench, having a lot of players that can play good football. That is one of the biggest things in creating a championship roster, maintaining a championship roster, not just college football, but across a lot of sports, right? Teams that aren't very deep don't usually make it super, super far. And Georgia and Kirby has shown how to win national championships at Georgia, doing it the last few years, competing for them in every single year. And he talks about how depth is really, really important, right? Well, guess what? Georgia's got depth at a lot of positions. If you go across the board, I think that they've got a lot of fruitful players at a lot of positions. You look at wide receiver, I think they have some serious depth there. Tight end, I think that there's depth pretty much everywhere. You can look for it on Georgia's roster. You can look for it on a depth chart and see, oh, wow, they've got a lot of guys that can play. The offensive line room, definitely, I'm going to discuss that during this video. I think that that's their strongest point, at this juncture. Looking ahead in 2024, I think looking at the offensive line room and seeing that the depth and the talent they have there, it's quite ridiculous. Dean discussed the linebackers being one of the deeper rooms in the country, and that's the case. They've got it, right? And they've developed it, and it's part of why Georgia's so good, because they can plug and play. They have, there's all sorts of things. They have secret weapons, right? That's one way to put it. Aron Smith, that's a great example. Let's talk about Aron Smith for a minute, because I think that he's a perfect example of Georgia's depth. This is a guy that came in as a 4-star recruit, right? So, pretty highly touted. The speed especially, obviously. All right, track star type of speed. And he also just doesn't play that much. That was kind of the thing, is he just hasn't played a lot over the course of his, this will now be year 5, right? You go through the numbers. I don't have them pulled up in front of me, but I don't know that he's recorded more than 300 receiving yards in a season or more than 10 or 15 catches a season. It's usually less than that. But he's a depth piece for Georgia. He's a weapon for Georgia. He's not, maybe he will be this season. I think that he's one of the turning heads. He's turned my head a little bit in terms of what he's able to accomplish during spring practice so far. I think he's been one of the guys, from what I've seen and what I've been told and read, that he's having one of the best springs so far. But over the course of his career at Georgia, he's been a rotational piece. He's not out there on every down. He's not a primary receiver. Will he be this year? I don't know. Maybe things tick up for him a little bit, but he's a guy that can make plays. Huge deep ball against Missouri in 2021. Huge deep ball against Ohio State in 2022. Made some plays. I think he had one against Alabama this past year, even though they didn't win that game. He made a few plays. Had a touchdown earlier on in the year. I think it was against UT Martin, but my point with him is he's a weapon and he's a depth piece. Even if he's not one of the primary receivers for Georgia, and even if he doesn't do that this season, Aron Smith, at the very minimum, provides them depth and a rotational piece and a different type of weapon. To me, the word depth means more than just one thing. It's not just that you have a lot of one thing, right? They have a lot of good quarterbacks. I think that being deep is also having a lot of different types of players, and you see that in that wide receiver room. You could just go down the list, and I will go down the list in a second. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post talking about Georgia's depth, talking about what Kirby Smart thinks a championship team needs to have, and it is that thing. It is depth and having a lot of players, right? And that's, I don't know how many reasons why it's really important, but there's more than just one reason. One reason is being hurt and having a lot of injuries and being able to plug and play different guys over the course of a football season. Look, they're trying to make the game safer, and there's a lot of rule changes going on in football. But at the end of the day, this is a more than just a contact sport. This is a crash sport. This is a collision sport. It's physical. It can be violent. That's why some of these guys play it. They like the violence of it. It's never going to be completely safe. And because of that, there are injuries, and that trickles over the course of a season, and it trickles with one person over the course of season 2. You can just tack on injuries. Well, how do you combat that? Having depth, and Georgia has that. Do you have yourself signed up for the Dawg Post newsletter? I'm asking you, please. I'm not going to beg. I won't beg. I don't really beg for things. But I am asking you to sign up for the Dawg Post newsletter as we try to push out as much content as possible this spring and every single day. But all you got to do is go to the description below this video. Look at the link. It takes just a couple seconds. Punch in your email address, and all of a sudden you're going to be one of the most tapped in Georgia fans out there because you're getting a notification every single day with the latest of what's going on with Georgia Bulldogs, whether it's breaking news, whether it's an injury report, a practice report, someone got hired, whatever it is. Be the first to know about it. You want to be the person that texts your friend, hey, did you see this? Oh, hey, you want to be the one that breaks your news to your friend. Let us break the news to you so you can then be the one to blast that out in your group chats. Thank you. That was a little bit of a long explanation for why you should get the newsletter. Just real quick, they have a billion receivers. Dylan Bell, I think, is capable. London Humphreys, I think, is capable. Dominic Lovett, Robert Thomas, Aron Smith, Colby Young, Michael Jackson. They've got all sorts of receivers. Moving on. We'll talk about the linebackers. Young. I've got to pull up physical roster. Again, I've been doing the physical roster thing a lot, but you go down the list. I mean, C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson. That's just from that last class alone. Troy Bullis, just from that last class alone. Smile Munden. And then you get all the freshmen from this class. And then I'm not even talking about the outside linebackers. I'm pretty much just talking about the inside. You've got Jalen Walker, who's going to be mixing in inside and out. They're deep. They can rotate. They've got guys behind the starters, right? Smile Munden and C.J. Allen is my guess for who's going to start as the two inside guys. But they've got two other completely capable starters in Jalen Walker and Raylan Wilson at that spot. They're too deep there at inside linebacker, and all of those guys are getting cross-trained to play at a different position, and that's another point. And I made a video about how Georgia cross-trains recently, and that creates depth because why? Different people can play different positions. Jalen Walker, we feel like we need you inside. No, you can play outside too, and that gives us the ability to put other guys on the inside and let other guys train for reps at the inside, and that makes them better. And you think about, you know what? Kirby actually gave a prime example of this today. And that's how I'll move on to the offensive line room. Kirby was talking about Tate Ratledge a little bit. This is going out Wednesday morning. I'm recording this on Tuesday afternoon, just a couple hours after the Kirby press conference, where he discussed Tate Ratledge and how he's taken some reps at center this spring. And look, because Jared Wilson seems to be the guy primed to be the starter at that spot. Well, what's my speculation for why they could do that? One, so they have depth at center. And two, they can develop their depth at guard more. Because guess what? Tate Ratledge, All-American guard, right? He's going to be a starter for Georgia this year, as he has been the last few years. They've got a bunch of other guys that can play guard. Xavier Truss, Micah Morris, Dylan Fairchild. Jared Wilson can play guard. They're cross-training all those guys. I just named kind of the main ones that I think will be the primary contributors at that spot. But Tate Ratledge taking reps at center also gives other chances for other players to take reps at guard, and then all of a sudden, you've got a pretty interchangeable offensive line that can do things. Amarius Mims' injury not impacting Georgia in a super significant way. This is a first-round tackle. A guy that is most likely going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft here in a month at tackle. Didn't affect them that much because all they had to do was slide over Xavier Truss, plug in Dylan Fairchild, rotate with Micah Morris. Monroe Freeling can play. Well, what happened with Truss? No problem, all right, Monroe Freeling. And look, you got to have a next man up mentality in sports and creating depth, and you want that on championship teams. But that's my point. This is a championship competing team, and they do have the players across the board. Quarterback depth. You've got Gunnar Stockton behind Carson, right? Not as deep at quarterback necessarily in terms of experience because Gunnar really hasn't played that much. Ryan Puglisi hasn't played at all, and that's kind of your three deep at quarterback. But they're going to do their best to develop Gunnar Stockton in garbage time this season. I imagine he'll have a handful of opportunities to get out there and get on the field. At running back, you saw the depth was an issue last season. I don't think that will be as much as an issue this season because I think that they'll be healthier. At corner, yes, they have depth. Some of it's younger. Some of it's a few five-star freshmen. But they've got all sorts of players. It's recruiting. It's development. It's all of that. But it helps create a championship team. And it starts with just having the players. That's what they do better than anyone. Right now, at least. Thanks for watching.